messages in Russian this weekend. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky gave his first big interview to Russian journalists since the beginning of the war. He talked to 4 of them at the same time over Zoom. Now, as soon as the Russian government got wind of this interview, it put out orders to quash it, threatening the journalists with potential imprisonment over having their licenses to print Vladimir Putin has to go. That doesn't necessarily mean there's an American plan or a Western or a NATO alliance plan to take Vladimir Putin out, but he was expressing a view that this is not necessarily Russia's war. This is not the war of the Russian people. I don't think most of the Russian people care about this thing. This is Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine.
Well, I would agree with President Biden in his moral judgment, saying that this person cannot stay in power, this person cannot run Russia. And he did make many clarifications on that, saying that this is his moral judgment, not a policy proposal. And I would agree with that. I do disagree, however, with this statement that Russians do not care, or that common Russians are not in support of the war, because unfortunately the situation is much more terrifying, because 80% of Russians actually support this war against Ukraine. And we are hearing more and more evidence of people in Russia actually truly being in favor of that. Well, of course, they have been victims to propaganda machine set up by Vladimir Putin, but regardless of the reason and the method of how that happened, the absolute majority of Russians actually support killings of Ukrainians. And I've read so many statements by the Russians online, as to an extent that they are allowed to use internet, of course. They all give some very crazy ideas and explanations why they want the war in Ukraine. I think the most logical, if you can call it this, that I have read was this, a woman saying that, well, if we didn't attack them, they would have attacked us. And that is, trust me, the most logical thing that I have heard. Because the other things they were saying like they were creating their biological weapon. And when asked, what do you mean by biological weapon? They were saying like they're creating the special birds that will only attack someone who is ethnically Russian. And they were planning to send those birds into Russia and to kill all of us. And that is as crazy as it gets. And I'm sorry to say this, but this is basically the whole nation, or the majority of the nation, gone wild. It's not just Vladimir Putin, no matter how much we wish for that to be true.
So is that an issue of not concentrating on Vladimir Putin being out of office, if that's not the only problem? I ask you this because the Russians responded to President Biden's statement by saying it's not for Joe Biden to decide who the president of Russia is, it's for the Russian people. But it's very obvious that the Russian people don't actually have a say in whether Vladimir Putin is their president. They don't live in a democracy.
Well, it's actually hypocritical of the Russian to remind the world that it's for Russian people to say who will be the ruler of Russia. Well, they attacked Ukraine, saying that they don't want Vladimir Zelensky to be the president of Ukraine, even though, of course, our elections are so much more free than the Russian ones. But I do think that, of course, the problem is not just with Vladimir Putin, because he truly has the absolute majority of support in Russia. And I do think that the process of demilitarization, denazification of Russia will be much, much slower. It's not just a matter of changing Putin, even if we can imagine that to happen if he somehow disappears from the Russian political scene. It's also a matter of the whole population just supporting his ideas. And if Putin is gone, if he dies, he's killed, or whatever happens to him, they will vote for someone with very similar ideas, because those are the ideas that they all share right now. And that is scary. That is truly scary.